the field will be released very shortly round on to the grid with, of course, the regular format, 50 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes for the pit window, a 60-second pit stop if you are a double driver entry, and if you're a soloist, you do 63 seconds. So, as ever, it balances out across the course of the race. Weather conditions have been a bit, Nürburgring-ish all day, with the sun shining 1 minute, with it looking a bit leaden in the sky the next. And the cars, as I say, heading to the grid very shortly. The front row being occupied by the Karel Bash, Andrei Lewandowski entry, with the American Patrick Liddy and Venezuelan Jonathan Chicotto indeed, lining up alongside. As ever, there are some familiar names to Super Trofeo and some new names as well. So cars making their way now round to the grid in readiness for the first of two of these 50-minute races this weekend. Dean Stoneman, very rapid British single-seater racer who's come to Super Trofeo this year. Indeed has been a race winner in Super Trofeo this year, starting on the second row of the grid. He's going to be a driver to keep an eye to. Alberto Di Folco shares number 9. He's a former class champion with the Danish driver Kevin Rossell. So again, that is a car with one experienced driver, one newcomer, but you could expect to be up near the front of the grid. Jake Rattenbury is amongst those back for another season, the Welshman sharing with Guillem Bea, the Spanish driver. He's new to the championship this year. And as the field makes its way round, ready for the rolling start, they'll sit on the grid for a bit, of course. We'll get them lined up, ready to go. Then, in fact, it's going to be quite a few minutes before the race gets underway because they've got the installation laps first of all to cycle through. That's the view on board. Cars head up the hill. Wins so far this year have gone the way of Dean Stoneman, who was on his own, in fact, at Misano last time out. He's got a co-driver for this weekend, namely Kiko Galbiati, who was with Vito Postiglione at the start of the season, but Vito not here, so Kiko transfers. And Milos Pavlovic was a winner with Raul Gutzman for the opening race, but they are 5th on the grid for this one, so it'll be interesting to see what progress can be made. Familiar name from GT racing, but Formula 3000 of years past as well. Claude Gosselin is coming into this championship with Giuseppe Fascicolo, another experienced Maserati racer from the one-make championship. Massimo Mantovani, one of the quick AMs, back for another season. And in the Pro-Am competition, Gerard van der Horst stepping up to the class this year with Loris Spinelli, who is, of course, a former outright champion. Let's go to the grid and join Gemma Scott.
Maurizio, it's fantastic to have so many cars here on the grid at the Nürburgring. Great to see such force for the Lamborghini.
Sure, this is one of the track that for us is fundamental. We use in the development, and is really parts of our products development plan, and to be here to race with all this car is fantastic. We are here also to prepare the race of tomorrow, and it's a really big honor to be here like Lamborghini and all with this Huracan Super Trofeo car.
What changes have been made to the car for this season?
We have made a lot of improvement. It's clear that every year you collect all the, let me say, the deficiency of the year before, and you try to improve in terms of reliability, in terms of performance also. But you know, in a one-make series, performance is not absolutely the main value. What is important is that our customer, gentlemen, amateur, the rookers, are able to enjoy all the car, to be able to achieve performance that are really exceptional in a full safety way, and really enjoying the passion of the race.
Well, certainly the times between the top three on the grid here are very, very close.
Yeah. It's really, you know, here there are really people that start to race. They can really immediately to be competitive because the car is able really to give the confidence to allow to push. And it's clear that the performance of Huracan Super Trofeo is really exceptional. We limited because otherwise are so fast that can really embarrassing in terms of performance.
Maurizio, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Maurizio Reggiani, the Director of R&D for Lamborghini Squadra Corsa, Jem Scott down on the grid, David Addison trackside, and the cars here making their way round onto the grid. It's Carol Bash starting the pole-sitting car with lining up alongside the Patrick Liddy and Jonathan Chicotto entry. So it's going to be interesting to see how this opening race pans out. So we've got some new drivers this year, and amongst them Kevin Rossell. Dorian Boccolacci is a driver doing both Super Trofeo and also GT3 World Championship. And one of those newcomers to the European Championship, driving number 7 from the front row, is American Patrick Liddy. He's with Gemma.
Patrick, welcome to the Nürburgring. Your very first time here. You first set the wheels turning on the circuit yesterday. What do you think of the circuit?
It's an amazing circuit. You know, compared to racing in the U.S. last year, it's been amazing learning all these tracks. You know, F1 circuits and such historic, significant tracks. So, turning the first laps yesterday at the track was unbelievable.
And of course, you know, getting out there now for the race, the weather's looking slightly unpredictable, and here we could have absolutely anything. You could have rain on one part of the circuit and dry on another. It adds another element of challenge. For sure, and you know, they say you never know what can happen at the Nürburgring. So just happy to see Johnny put such a good lap in yesterday, and the car is great. The team's been fantastic, so all we can do is put our best foot forward and hope for a good result. I guess you're able to learn a fair amount from Johnny as well over here in Europe. Yeah, he's just pulled up. He's been amazing, learning both the Italian language and also how to drive like an Italian. So I've really been enjoying it. Have a great race. Thank you very much. Thanks. Cheers.
So there's the car, the American driver who raced in the North American equivalent of this championship last season. And Patrick Liddy comes to Europe. So yes, a debut here. Another newcomer in this championship, Sebastian Balthazar, driving for Lippert within the pro entry that he shares with Markus Paverud, the German driver Sebastian Balthazar. So again, it's really good, as we say every season, to talk about the new drivers coming in, and indeed the young guns, because there was a time a few years ago when Super Trofeo seemed to be purely only really for rich ams, but now very much it is seen as a career drivers championship, especially if you can impress and then get onto the Lamborghini roster. So Carol Bash there, the pole, who shares this Pro-Am pole-sitting car with his fellow countryman Andrei Lewandowski. They teamed up together to win the Pro-Am element of the Lamborghini World Finals last year. And it's going to be number 7, Jonathan Chicotto, starting with them on the front row. There's number 41, winning car in the opening race at Misano. And it's Raul Guzman who will start. Milos Pavlovic will take over, so it's the Mexican driver there, experienced he is too. Raul Guzman for the first stint, Milos Pavlovic to take over. That car is 5th on the grid, just lining up behind number 33 of Dean Steinman and Kiko Galbiati. That's got to be a potential winning car for sure, I would have thought. There's number 9 that's going to be started by Kevin Rossell before he hands over to Alberto Di Folco, the Target Racing entry. Target, another of the teams that's been in Super Trofeo for a long, long time. And then number 69, the car again from Lippert of Jake Rattenbury, who will go first. And Guillaume Bea, the Spanish driver, will do the second stint. So the Welshman being strapped into the car. Countdown continues. The grid is about to be cleared, and then this field will be released. 23 cars we have, so still a healthy number of cars for Super Trofeo, maybe a little bit down on what we had 3 or 4 seasons ago, but that is quite understandable given what the world has been through, and it's still going through, of course, with travel restrictions as well as impacts on budgets. Let's go back down to the grid. Dorian Boccolacci for the Oregon team now with Gemma.
Dario, here we're looking full throw of the grid. Quite a gap between yourself and the poleman in terms of lap times that we saw earlier, but certainly an opportunity to push forward here up the front end.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see the microphone. Yeah, of course, we are starting P7. My teammate did a good race, a good qualifying yesterday, and we hope to do a good race, to catch a bit the front, and yeah, the goal is to do a podium. So yeah, from this position everything is possible. We are inside for the first corner, so yeah, we are looking forward.
Of course, you're relying on your teammate to get the right start, and it'll be up to you then after that pit stop to keep that performance hopefully strong and drive it home.
Yeah, the goal is to have a good start, gain a bit of position in the first lap, and then when I will take the car again, the goal is to overtake some driver and to try to do a really good race with a good pace.
What opportunities have you got here for overtaking? How do you find that yourself?
Yeah, there is some opportunity, and especially at the end of the race when you have some used tire, depend of the degradation of all the drivers, but yeah, we can have a good opportunity at the end of the race. So
have a great race. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Dorian Boccolacci then, thumbs up, ready to go. There's the spectacularly liveried car that he shares with Kevin Giardoni for the Oregon team. And having talked about the sunshine about 3 minutes ago, now look, it's black above, isn't it, as you see the car of Max Weering, the Johan Crown Motorsport car, the Dutch driver, and the team and driver, both new to the championship this year. So, looking down onto the grid, car 66 ready to go. That for the Michenek Motorsport ACCR team. Bronek Formanek will start, Jakob Knoll will take over. Bronislav Formanek behind the wheel. And the grid is just about ready to rock then. We are slightly behind schedule here at the Nürburgring because of earlier delays. So about 10 minutes or so behind the initial starting time we will be. So the cars shortly will be released onto the green flag lap. The Lamborghini Urus, the lead car, which will take them around on this lap, and the medical car at the back, rather less powerful. 50 minutes, of course, the race duration, that very narrow 10-minute pit window, but what of course that does is mean that each driver has to do a minimum of 20 minutes, a minimum, and therefore that does negate the opportunity for having a pro driver who can't do much more than at best probably 27.5, 28 minutes before he has to come down the pit lane. So it is a good idea to have that narrow window. Right, almost ready to go then. Doors will be closed, engines will fire up, and then our third race of Super Trofeo 2020 will be underway. From Misano, outright wins were the same as the pro wins. Gutzman and Pavlovich in race 1, Dean Stoneman on his own in race 2. Pro-Am, both won by Bash and Lewandowski. In the AMs, Cedric Lima and Laurent Geny won the first. They're not here this weekend. Massimo Mantovani won the second. He is here. And Lamborghini Cup wins split between number 22 of Kurt Wagner, Libor Dvoracek in race 1, and Hans Fabry on his own in race 2, and they are both on the grid as well, those entrants. Right, grid is now being cleared. Everybody scurries away, and the pace lap, as it is effectively, will get underway very shortly. So, pace lap gets underway. Everybody now accelerates off down towards turn 1. So the white car on pole position, that of Karol Basz, and it is the red and blue and black multicoloured car really of Jonathan Chicotto, alongside Jonathan, who raced in Italian GT, and he's an experienced driver from a short space of time. So let's look at the grid. It's Karol Basz and Jonathan Chicotto on the first row of the grid, with the British driver Dean Stoneman and Sebastian Balthazar on row 2. Raoul Gutzman shares row 3 with Kevin Russell. The fourth row is where you find Kevin Gilardoni and Jake Rattenbury alongside, ahead of Bronislaw Formanek and Max Weering. The next row, Mikko Escalanen and Giuseppe Fasicolo, ahead of the Finn Olli Kangas, who's on his own for VS Racing, and Massimo Mantovani also on his own for the Target Racing team. Then you have got Lorenzo Bontempelli and his co-driver, which is Fioraventi, and Gerard van der Horst alongside, ahead of Kurt Wagner and Holger Harmsen. Oliver Freimuth comes next with Franz Conrad alongside. Then it is Hans Fabry and Martin Lechmann, with Kurt Wagner rounding out the grid. There's a question mark over whether it's Lorenzo Bontempelli or, this is car number 14, Damiano Fioraventi starting. I think it should be Fioraventi because he did the qualifying time. However, we're about to find out as the cars are set to go racing. Yeah, it should be Fioravanti in number 14, not, as the timing system has it, Lorenzo Bontempelli, but that hopefully will be rectified as the race gets underway. So the cars on this formation lap come up towards the S's. This is the turn 11-12 section, which brings you through the Ravenol curve, then the Bilstein curve, and then with the speed increasing all the time down towards the Oud van Bogen, and then to the chicane at the end of the lap. So Karol Basz starting on pole position. Came into the championship a couple of years ago in the pro class, thrown into it straight away, sharing with Vito Postiglione. Really sad not to have Vito on the grid this year, because he's been the perennial bridesmaid, certainly deserved to win the championship, but not able to do the full season. So Kiko Galbiati transfers to Dean Stoneman's car. Dean for the Bonaldi Motorsport team, starting on the second row of the grid as the cars now head up towards the chicane. Dean Stoneman, we got as far as Formula 2. Very, very good single-seater career until he was derailed in his progression by the most appalling cancer, which he did a quite outstanding job of overcoming. Came back to racing and has changed his outlook a little on life and on his career, but is happy to go racing when he can, and still very, very quick, as you see. Right, Karol Basz tries to get the drop on everybody. All that does, of course, is make people accelerate, and then they have to brake again. So that might not be the kind of start that Daniele Galbiati, the race director, is very impressed by. However, the cars now make their way up towards the timing line. If the officials are happy, then we'll get the race underway, which we do now then as the cars accelerate down towards turn 1. Karol Basz it is who makes the best start then, so Basz leads the way. Going on board with Sebastian Balthazar then, he's in the traffic on the outside line of Basz. It is Chicotto, and into the back of Basz gets Dean Stoneman, and that forces him out wide. Chicotto has a nibble at Karol Basz's car as well, so Dean Stoneman comes through into the lead, but that really was with a little bit of force, wasn't it? Got into the back of the pole car. That sent him out wide, and so Dean Stoneman takes over the race lead, but is that going to incur the wrath of the officials? We'll find out over the course of the stint, no doubt, as the field now turns up through turn 4 for the first time. Balthazar's Leipert car coming under attack. He's losing places, but now there you can see Kevin Gilardoni for Oregon. That multicoloured, very familiar Oregon colour scheme that's been on Renault Clio V6s, World Touring Car Alfa Romeos. He's right there on the back as they drop downhill for the first time. 50-minute race, and the race leader, Dean Stoneman, is coming under attack from Karol Basz, who is very, very upset at not being the race leader, and especially the way that it was done. Staying with them in third place, Jonathan Chicotto then, as they come up through turn 8 now. flick through the chicane. And now power on all the way up towards the turn 11-12 sequence through the Ravenol curve, up now through the Nürburgring curve. One goes out wide there, rattling all over the curb. That was Jake Rattenbury by the look of it, the Welsh driver, very familiar to this championship and these cars. Indeed, he's raced in the Asian series as well as the European. But right now, Karol Bash lines up to have a go for the lead against Dean Stoneman, and he goes through. Good move into the chicane, makes it stick. Does Stoneman fight back on the inside line? Yes, he does. They're going to be side by side, are they? Down towards the last corner. Stoneman on the inside, Karol Bash on the outside line. He's just got his nose in front, but it's the wrong line. Side by side off the corner, up past the pits. Bash just ahead, but again, unless he can get the job done and cut across the front before turn one, he's going to be hung out to dry on the outside line. The Bonaldi car of Dean Stoneman, second at the end of the opening lap, but gets its lead back as they drop into turn one. Bash gets the tighter line, but he can't get up alongside, and he can't get the undercut for turn two either. So Stoneman, good defensive driving, fends him off. Chicotto is third. Jonathan Chicotto, one of Johnny Senior's two sons, right there in third place now. Karol Bash way up the curve as he comes now through turn three into turn four. And the cars sprint down to the Schumacher S then for this, the second time in this 50-minute race. The clock ticks on down all the while. Replay of the start. Now have a look. Karol Bash with Dean Stoneman right behind him. Dean sitting in the wheel tracks, has a little look to the inside line on that inside, brakes later, and there's the contact that's just enough to unsettle Karol Bash, force him out wide, and then Dean Stoneman finds a way by. From the other side of the grid, this was how Sebastian Balthazar saw it, up through the gears, and then suddenly you've got to go down, 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 down through them. Second gear into turn one, really fighting the car. And he gets forced out on the outside line. There is Karol Bash stepping back onto the road just ahead. That's the aftermath of one bit of contact. Then there was a second nibble, wasn't there? Jonathan Chicotto just glancing off Karol Bash's car as well. So Karol has tried for the race lead to no avail, and now looks for a way back past Dean Stoneman as the cars come once more into turn 16 through the right-hander. Number two, Sebastian Balthazar onto the power. So Balthazar past the pits. Stoneman now 7/10 of a second to the good, so the lead gap extending a little. Balthazar, new to the championship, comes up to attack Raul Guzman then, the Mexican driver on the inside line, Balthazar on the outside, but no way through for him there. Big slide there. You saw Sebastian Balthazar have to correct the car, got away with it, but he does look very nervous. The car twitchy, it's offline, and he's losing ground again as well. So Dean Stoneman back into the lead. Karol Bash in second place, 7/10 of a second between Dean and Karol now. Third, Jonathan Chicotto. And there, the top two. Downhill they come, lap three in this 50-minute race. Hard on the brakes and then turn into the turn 8 corner at the bottom of the hill. Replay here on board Sebastian Balthazar's car. Gets all sideways coming out of turn 3, lots of correction needed. And while all that's been going on, Yuri Wagner has just come into the pit lane as well, clearly with a problem because it's way, way too early for it to be one of the regulation stops. Contact between Stoneman and Bash is under investigation, so the race director has had a look, thinks that might need something doing about it, passes it upstairs as it were to the stewards, and they will decide. Race director concentrates on what is happening in the race on the track at the time. Stewards will look at anything judicial while the race is underway. So there is Karol Bash then, did a good first sector on this lap to get back onto terms with Dean Stoneman, but it's Dean that leads the way. Chicotto still there in third place, Guzman fourth, Balthazar fifth, Kevin Gilardoni is in sixth place as they come now onto the pit straight once again. Over the line goes Stoneman, Bash running in second place, that gap still hovering around the 7/10 of a second mark, but of course in terms of co-drivers, Chico Galbiati will replace Dean Stoneman. Very experienced, very quick. Andrei Lewandowski replaces Karol Bash. Experienced, but not as quick. He's a quick am against a quick pro in Chico Galbiati, the Italian-based Romanian. Right, there's the car of Yuri Wagner, clearly with a problem. Yuri sharing that with Fidel Live. Replay of that start again. There you can see the contact that's under investigation. Stoneman on Bash. So downhill comes the race leader, Dean Stoneman. It is under investigation. Is that the end of the story? Will anything need to be done? Jonathan Chicotto in third place, just dropping away ever so slightly there. Fourth place, Raul Gutzman. Balthazar running in fifth, Gilardoni in sixth. In terms of the classes at the moment, Dean Stoneman, Karol Bash, Giuseppe Fascicolo, and who's leading Lamborghini Cup? Hans Fabry are your category leaders. Hans Fabry down in 20th place. There in number 30 is the very experienced Finn, Mikko Eskelinen. He's got another new co-driver for this year. Elias Niskanen comes into Super Trofeo. No further action against Stoneman nor Bash for that contact, so no further action taken after the brush at the first corner, say the officials. Giuseppe Fascicola leading in the AM class at the moment. There up towards the chicane is Giuseppe Fascicolo, the leading AM, shares this car with Claude Gosselin. He's under attack though, because as you can see, crawling all over the back of him is Massimo Mantovani, winner last time out at Misano in the AM category. Onto the pit straight they now come. Lead gap's going up though. Dean Stoneman has just done the fastest lap of the race, and that means he's getting away from Karol Bash in second place. So AM battle rages on. Fascicolo, experienced racer, but not necessarily in Super Trofeo terms, but adapting nicely here, keeping at bay Massimo Mantovani, the experienced Italian GT racer, as they come up now towards turn 4, part of the circuit where track limit abuse is quite common if you run really wide, way out over those curbs. Further up the road ahead, you can see the likes of Eskelinen, and also in number 14, still going nicely. That car in the hands of Damiano Fioravanti. Still being shown as Bontempelli driving in 12th place, but Fioravanti should be the start driver. He was the one behind the wheel in the qualifying session. Downhill they come for the AM battle, and you've got therefore here running 14th and 15th overall. Giuseppe Fascicolo just ahead of Massimo Mantovani as they round turn 8, make the climb up the hill. So Dean Stoneman leads the way, but in sector 1 of this lap, the gap was down by 0.3 of a second. Karol Bash coming back at him. Wagner, that we saw Yuri Wagner in the pit, still in the pit, so clearly with a big problem. There the AM class closing right up now. Mantovani onto the back of Fascicolo as they sweep now through the Ravenol and Bilstein curves. There are the race leaders. It's almost 3 now, isn't it? Because Chicotto is about as far back from Bash as Bash is to Stoneman. So it's 3 in a line as they come out of the last corner up towards the line. Dean Stoneman goes through, but knowing, of course, because he's a savvy driver, the relative pace of those behind, he can probably keep a fairly modest advantage over them, and still, with the efforts of his co-driver Chico Galbiati, come out in front at the end of the 50 minutes. So the race leader currently on lap number 6. Dean Stoneman it is up front. The gap last time, 0.895 of a second. .66 goes through, which is Bronislav Fomenek, currently running in 10th place. Formanek, another driver coming new to the championship this year, adapting nicely. He is currently second in class. Karel Bash is the class leader. This is in Pro-Am, but of course Bash way up the order. Formanek 10th, Bash second. They're going through is Formanek chasing after Max Weering. Race leaders downhill once more, with Dean Stoneman making the climb now up towards the chicane. Karel Bash staying with him. Bash has done the fastest lap of the race now, did that last time through. But can he find that last 10th, as it were, to get right back onto terms with Stoneman? If anything, you'd think Chicotto now, winner of the World Final last year in Super Trofeo, is getting quicker and closer to Bash rather than Bash closing on Stoneman. Over the timing line they come, and the margin between the top two just over a second. That it's 6/10 second to third. The field streams through. Gutzman still fourth, Balsa in fifth, Gelardoni sixth, ahead of Rossell, Rattenbury, Weering and Formanek. Out of turn two goes Ollie Kangas, so the VS Racing driver, another driver stepping across into Super Trofeo Europe this year, getting quicker and quicker every time out, following the lead, if you like, of Mikko Eskelinen, the Finn who races as well as rallies, but Kangas coming into the championship now. Kangas not that far behind Fioravanti, so there's a place that might be gained before much longer for him as he heads down the hill. But Dean Stoneman continuing to hold sway up front. Now, we're only really about 6 minutes off that pit window opening, so the shuffling could be a-coming, especially not only in the pits, but when you get the differing drivers into the car. Over the curb they ride. Kanga still pushing on, but down in 13th place at the moment, chasing after Fioravanti. So through goes Ollie Kangas. Still closing up onto the back of that Oregon car ahead. But for the moment, Damiano Fioravanti running in the Pro-Am class, keeping him at bay. Kangas on his own. He's in the Pro class. He was going to have Eduardo Liberati with him, but in the end, it's become a single driver entry. And Ollie Kangas down in 13th place. Right, the lead margin is going up all the time now. We're up to 1.3 seconds between Stoneman and Bash. Number 14 goes through. We've had a change further back for the AM class lead. Massimo Mantovani has got ahead of Giuseppe Fascicolo now, 14th overall, but the AM category lead changes as a result. There is the 10th place car, Bronislav Formanek. A long way back from Max Weering in terms of being able to challenge for position now. That's the race order. Stoneman, Bash, Chicotto, Gutzman, Balthazar, Gilardoni. So no change within that leading gaggle for the moment, but as I say, it could well come on the pit stops. Then, of course, you also get differing pace of drivers into the car. The pit lane marshals get ready, the teams get ready as well for that window and the necessity to do a good pit stop without being short on your regulation time. Through there goes Kevin Rossell, the Danish driver, in 7th place. Now he will give that car in the second stint over to Alberto Di Falco, and it should go well. Di Falco has won the class in the championship in years past, so keep an eye to that when we get into the second stint. Leader goes past the pits. Dean Stoneman was 1.3 seconds to the good. and he's now, in fact, only 1 second, so the gap down again on that lap. Karol Bash is certainly not giving up, is he? He's still pushing. So Mantovani, as the new AM class leader, trying to get away from Fasicholo, but last time through it was a very, very modest gap indeed. Let's see whether it does stretch at all. More battles to resolve lower down the order there. Look, Escalanen, Fioravanti, Kangas all coming through together, and there over the timing line is now Mantovani getting away from Giuseppe Fasicolo's car. Hard on the brakes, turn into the Whisper at Mercedes Arena goes Massimo Mantovani. So for Target Racing, Massimo Mantovani pulling away a little bit more now. Speed builds when he can in a straight line to shake off the challenge of Fasicolo, but right now he is well clear really, because Fasicolo is not coming back at him, and Holger Harmsen, third in the AMS, is in turn quite a fair way back as well. The leaders flick through the Schumacher S. Lots of curb being used, you can hear that in the background, as there in second spot Karol Bash keeps Jonathan Chicotto at bay. Patrick Liddy, the American driver, will take that car over, of course having to spend his season in Europe now rather than go back and forth with the travelling restrictions as they are, changing all the time. But Patrick Liddy trying to make a name for himself in European GT racing now. Number 41, Raul Guzman, winner at Misano, not that far behind, don't rule him out. Into turn 16 he comes. So Guzman out of the last corner, accelerates up past the pits. He's almost with that leading group. Milos Pavlovic, though, who is another Lamborghini factory driver, will take over the next stint and should, I would have thought, be able to do his usual exemplary job in that car. So Guzman is staying in the leading group. He's only 3.4 seconds back from the leader. Pavlovic should be able still to win this race, even though that car's going to be fourth on the pit stop. So it's going to be a very interesting second stint. We're not far away from that pit window opening either. Out of turn 6, though, plunges Raul Guzman, still trying to stay on the back of Chicotto. Chicotto not quite close enough to Bash this time, and Bash has dropped away slightly as well from Dean Stoneman, the race leader. So it's a rather elasticated situation that we have between that leading 4 cars in this race. 20 minutes almost done, then the pit window set to open. The midfielders might even be able to dive in at the end of this lap, looking at the clock. Stoneman, as he comes up the hill, shaking off Bash, and if anything, it's Chicotto closing on the Polish driver for second place now. Remember that in real terms, Karol Bash and Andrei Lewandowski are after Pro-Am honours. Andrei Lewandowski, that does stint 2, is the Am, Karol Bash the young pro, so they're going for class positions really, but Chicotto needs to get up with Stoneman for Pro, and it's Dean Stoneman leading outright. Kurt Wagner now comes into the pit lane, but only now is the window open. So he was in a little early there as the race continues. So we've got Yuri Wagner with a problem. Now Kurt Wagner comes in, as also they're diving for the pit lane. Looks to be Kevin Gilardoni for the Oregon team to give way to Dorian Boccolacci. Right, that is 22, which is the car that Kurt Wagner shares with Libor Dvoracek. So that is in. 63 seconds being the pit stop time if you're on your own, and 60 for the 2 driver entries. More and more and more of them pouring for the pit lane now, so get the stop out of the way early, get your faster driver in. But number 11, the first of that leading group to come in, Kevin Gilardoni giving way to Dorian Boccolacci, Audi racer this weekend here in GT3, Lamborghini racer obviously in Super Trofeo, splitting between the two. What he is doing is getting lots of track time, that's for sure. Dean Stoneman leads the way, order shuffles as people pit. So there is the race leader heading down the hill. Karol Bash still there in second place. Now up the hill they climb once more. So Carol Bash still pressing on, fractionally faster within the first sector on this lap, but you just get the feeling that everything he tries, Dean Stoneman has an answer, watches it, and he's just able to cover any move that Bash might think of making. He just ups his pace ever so slightly, just extends that margin once again. And we've had drama at the first corner as the yellows are out there, but the race leaders then come down through the chicane. Pit window is open, and there, Jonathan Chicotto, does he go for the pits this time? No, nor does Stoneman, nor does Carol Bash. So the race leaders come out of turn 16 up towards the timing line, and Dean Stoneman goes through. Now, of course, you've got cars on the racetrack, you've got cars feeding in from the pit lane. Dean Stoneman comes through. What the pit lane exiters can't do is to cut the white line, and we go safety car. Safety car is being deployed then. So here at the Nürburgring, safety car on track. There's been an incident, as I say, out there somewhere, and the yellow flags wave. The safety car actually hasn't made its way onto the road yet, but the safety car provision has been made. So straight off, everybody has to slow right down, and the timing of all this from Daniele Galbiati, the race director's point of view, could not be at a worse time, with the pit window open and some people having already stopped. As soon as you get safety cars in pit windows, life just becomes hell for race officials, trying to keep tabs of the order. However, safety car conditions are now employed. Dean Stoneman, the race leader. Now, is he going to benefit, or is he going to be hindered by the safety car period? We will find out as the pit window remains open. So I think quite a few will pour in now, yes, taking advantage of that safety car period. That's Massimo Mantovani in from what was 10th place. Where out of all of this are the leaders? Let us see, as number 4 there serves the stop. So that is Giuseppe Fascicolo now giving way for the second stint to Claude-Yves Gosselin. Leader in, second in. Where out of all of that is Chicotto. He seems to have dropped quite a long way back, in fact. So more and more of them inevitably head down the pit lane. So Dean Stoneman and Carol Bash both in. And Jonathan Chicotto is in the pit lane now, but as I say, lost time on that in lap. Raul Gutzmann is there in 4th. Sebastian Balthazar is in 5th place. So the order much shuffled now while the pit stop window cycles through. Everybody has to make a stop, of course, under the regulations. There the cars head down through turn 1. So number 41 ready to rejoin the fray. It'll be Milos Pavlovic at the wheel of that car. Behind you see number 9. So that to be taken over now by Alberto Di Folco. Those are going to be 2 quick race cars, that is for sure. Target Racing running the pair. And they're ready to go back out. Number 33, that's the Bonaldi car. Kiko Galbiati now taking the leading car over from Dean Stoneman. So the clock ticks down, and when the team is happy, away goes the Bonaldi car, keeping its lead, Kiko Galbiati over Andrei Lewandowski. But there is the safety car, so it will hopefully wave the traffic through to make sure it's got the right leading car behind, ready for the restart of the race, whenever that will come. think the one that we may have lost is the Wagner-Dvoracek car. 22, 21 still in the pit lane. So safety car circulating. Now, of course, there is the task of keeping up tyre temperatures and pressures. So that's why you've got the weaving going on as the field now comes up through the approach to the Ravenel curve. There, number 90, the Attempto entry of Holger Harmsen and Arkin Arke, who is the Attempto team. He's running this car and racing it. He's got his son racing in one of his 2 GT3 entries of the weekend. So it's a busy old squad, that. So just looking across to the marshal on the start line, the yellow flag is there. The board is still in hand, so I don't think we're ready to restart things just yet. Safety car still with the lights flashing, brings them down towards turn 16. Now there is the car in question, straight out of the pit lane, that would have been. Remember, Kurt Wagner came in with a problem, and it would have been Libor Dvoracek that's taken it over. So that's the damaged car coming out of turn 1. So that car needs retrieving. Work almost done. It's almost behind the vehicle access gate. Good to go. So, slightly puzzling as to what happened straight out of the pits. But that car, I don't think the car had even got to a sector to update the driver's name. It still showed as being Kurt Wagner who brought it in, but I would have thought Dvoracek would have taken it over. Anyway, it's all academic because it's out of the race. And it is Kiko Galbiati leading with 21 minutes of the race to go. Now the safety car has to let the traffic through so it can pick up the race leader. So it'll take a little bit of time now to get the order sorted. And indeed, Kiko Galbiati is now scooped up, as it were, behind the safety car. Oh, that might explain some of how it got to where it is at the end of the first corner, because there's barrier damage and bits of car on the way into it. So it's almost as though he's accelerated out of the pit lane and lost it, unless there was contact with a passing car that speared him across the road. But either way, a big impact into the barrier for the Wagner-Dvoracek entry. Marshall's trying to get the bits of debris out of the guardrail, I think, there. So not a good race for father and son of the Wagners. Yuri retiring early, and now Kurt Wagner is with a damaged car as well. Whether it was him or Libor Dvoracek at the wheel, the net result is it's a damaged car and it's out of the race. So where does this leave us? We are now at the end of the window. There are 20 minutes of the race to go. But we're going to have still a lap or so behind the safety car. There's number 61, which is Max Weering, soloist, so a slightly longer pit stop for him. The traffic, those cars you saw being released, they're just come pounding over the timing line, of course, trying to catch up to the Crocodile at the front of the field. So Galbiati, Lewandowski, Pavlovic, now the top 3. Patrick Liddy in number 7 has dropped back into 5th place, behind Marcus Pavarud, ex-GT4 racer that takes over the Sebastian Balthazar car. Right, so now the car is off the track. We've got 19 minutes to go. now over the timing line goes Chico Galbiati as the race leader. Andrei Lewandowski in second place, Milos Pavlovic running in third. Marcus Pavarud is fourth, Patrick Liddy is fifth, and Alberto Di Folco runs in sixth position. On board with Pavarud, so the Norwegian driver drove for Lippert in one of the Mercedes in GT4 last year, switching now to Super Trofeo. Now, are we going to be good to go fairly shortly? It's a little bit dependent not only on the barrier damage but also on the rest of the field catching up to the queue of cars here. Got the second race as well coming up later on in the day, so it's a marathon day this for the teams, with all the qualifying done earlier. Now the two races taking place today. So they're hustling on. Number 30, which Mikko Eskelinen has now given over to Elias Niskanen. And inevitably we've got pit stops under investigation, one of which is the race leader. So Galbiati is under investigation. Looking at the others, the Boccolacci pit stop is being looked at. So also Eskelinen and Niskanen, you've just seen the car. And 66, Jakob Knoll. So yeah, but the most significant is Chico Galbiati's stop. So Galbiati and Stoneman, that is being investigated. So Chico Galbiati is currently the race leader, but just pit stops, as I say, under investigation. So the most significant of those being looked at is from the race leader. Still, the lights are on top of the safety car, so no instant suggestion that we are going to go back to racing. Through turns number 33. Chico Galbiati with now 16 minutes to go. All of this meaning, of course, that there are fewer racing laps available, and if you do have a penalty based on pit stop infringement, you've got less time in which to try to overcome it. So there the cars down towards turn 16. At the moment they're doing 3-minute laps, so at this rate it would be 5 more safety car laps to the end, give or take. But how far off releasing the cars will the race director be? Daniele Galbiati will be in race control with the regular ADAC officials that run the events at the Nürburgring. They'll be looking at the damage. The clerk of the course will be able to assess what needs to be done, if anything, to make the track safe. Must have been a big impact into the wall, though, from the Wagner Dvoracek car to do all of this. So there the cars turn through, and it looks like the circuit is clear, doesn't it? So, yeah, safety car in this lap. We are good to go racing once more then here. So perhaps some of the wait has just been to let the traffic catch up, but that's just about happened now. So the cars down through turn 6. Safety car will be in. That will give us probably, what, 13 minutes or so of the race. And for those teams with damage, they've got a very tight turnaround before the second race later on. Massimo Mantovani there, heading the AM class. So we'll be back to racing this time, and let's see whether or not Patrick Liddy can make any progress back against Pavarud. Pavlovic, though, I think he's probably the man in third place who needs watching the most, number 41, because he is a very, very quick driver indeed. Not suggesting that Chico Galbiati is not, but Pavlovic excels in these cars. We don't often see him in a race-winning situation, so it's been a really real boost for him, a real relief to be paired with a quick co-driver this year, keeping them in contention. So as the cars now work down towards the approach to the Ad Van Bogen, Kiko Galbiati it is then who leads the way, ready to get the action back underway, but keep an eye on the third place car. Pavlovic then is going to be the man in a hurry. He should get past Lewandowski. Not that Andrei Lewandowski is not quick, but he is an AM in a Pro-Am car as against a very definite Pro, Milos Pavlovic. Mercedes, who's come from Formula Renault 3.5, GP2 and the like. Lamborghini factory driver. So here they come, up towards turn 16, ready to go racing. And Galbiati straight away is on the power, sprints over the line and tries to build that gap as they come by. So Kiko Galbiati it is up front then by 0.8 of a second. Andrei Lewandowski runs second. Milos Pavlovic is third, and already the changes come. Look, because they're diving down towards turn 1. Alberto Di Falco is on the inside line against Patrick Liddy for 5th place. Pavarud is ahead, but Liddy goes backwards rather than forwards as they come up now through turn 3. So number 7, Patrick Liddy, goes 1 spot back. Galbiati then was 0.8 ahead of Lewandowski, and straight away, look, Pavlovic is up into 2nd place. So now it is game on between Kiko Galbiati, the race leader, and Milos Pavlovic in 2nd place then. So what can the Serbian driver do to bring down this gap? Drama behind as well. Di Falco gets up the inside of Dorian Boccolacci, takes another place away. That also means that Boccolacci's got past Patrick Liddy. So look, number 7 hung out to dry on the outside. Liddy trying to fight back, but he's up the curb and he's in danger of losing yet another place now to Guillaume Beyer, who will be the next driver in the queue as they come now down into turn 8. What have we got? 11.5 minutes on the clock for Pavlovic to go after Galbiati. The gap was 1.2 seconds between them. It will have gone up a bit while Pavlovic has been getting past Lewandowski, but now that he's done that, look, he's storming away, but can he catch Galbiati before the end of the race? There is going to be a 0.6 of a second time penalty at the end of the race to Galbiati. So Pavlovic doesn't have to pass him, he has to get to within, effectively, 0.6 of a second. So the race leader for a pit stop infringement is being given a 0.6 of a second penalty. Number 30, which is the Eskelinen Niskanen car, that is being given a 0.453 second penalty. You're on board here with number 2, which is now Marcus Pavarud. 28, Franz Conrad's car, that's going to be given a 2.202 second penalty. Number 11 of Boccolacci and Kevin Gilardoni gets a 0.795 of a second penalty. And 66, which is Fomenek and Jakob Null, that gets a drive-through. So that's got to be served. The others just being given the time penalties at the end of the race. If you are short on the pit stop by a small margin, it's a time penalty added. If it's by a big margin, you get the drive-through. So the lead gap is now 2.8 seconds. Kiko Galbiati, who knows these cars very well, versus Milos Pavlovic, who knows them inside out. But the gap has gone up while Pavlovic was getting through the traffic. 2.8 seconds now the margin. Here, number 14 is Lorenzo Bontempelli coming back at Max Wearing. And as far as the race lead is concerned, Andrei Lewandowski now falling away into the clutches of number 2, Marcus Pavarud. So the drivers drop downhill, turning their way now through the right-hander of turn 8. Lewandowski losing touch with the overall leaders, but what he's got to try to do is hang on to that class lead. That is the concern, and actually life has just got better because the nearest opposition is Jakob Null. And while all that is happening, of course, Null, who's not only a long way back anyway, he's got this drive-through penalty to serve. So in real terms, that gap is going to get wider and wider. So Lewandowski, if he wants, can afford to get out of the way, just preserve that class lead without fear of getting involved in a battle that he doesn't really need to be in. So with 9 minutes to go, Franz Conrad running wide in the background, kicking up the dirt. Familiar Conrad team colours on that car. He's been brought into it to partner Vincent Schwartz. And it's a Pro-Am entry as there, look, Lewandowski, Pavarud, and then Alberto Di Falco all dive through turn 16. leaders go down towards the opening corner. Lewandowski still there in that third place. And battle on behind as Boccolacci dives to the outside of Patrick Liddy. Gets his nose in front. Can he go all the way around the outside? He's going to try. Also in the background, look, you've got Akin Arca in the blue Attempto car gaining ground. So Arca trying to get on with the job as well as best he can. Loris Spinelli is in a big hurry too for the Gerard van der Horst entry. There is Spinelli on the outside line. Is he going to be able to get past Patrick Liddy? Spinelli, the champion a couple of years back, is absolutely ruthless. And he's up the inside and he goes through. Patrick Liddy given a real workout there, forced out wide. Loris Spinelli surging his way up the order. And that car is now second in Pro-Am. I don't think Spinelli necessarily can get onto terms with Lewandowski before the end, but it's a possibility given the way that he's going, because he is absolutely flat out. On board now with Pavarud, climbing the hill. All up the curve he goes, and a big moment in the background there. Look for De Falco, rattles it out wide all over the curve and into the gravel, but you can see the commitment being put in there by the likes of De Falco and by Loris Spinelli. Absolutely flying. Lewandowski hanging on to position though. So there is Dorian Boccolacci, who gets this 0.795 of a second penalty. Replay here of Spinelli diving up the inside, leans a little bit on Boccolacci, but Loris Spinelli gets his nose in front and through he goes. So 6 minutes are on the clock, and the race leaders then battle their way for the 20th time down towards turn 6. Now the lead gap, 3.6 seconds. It has actually gone up a little bit. That means then that Pavlovic is not quite delivering what was anticipated of him in all of this, is he? He is quick, yes, but not quick enough, seemingly, to be catching. Down the hill he plunges. Spinelli then up into 6th place overall. And how far back is he from the class lead? He's only 2 seconds. So Spinelli might, yeah, there he is, look at the back of the train. He might take the class lead here. Franz Conrad in the background again, running wide, again kicking up the dirt. Turns his way into turn 8, but as far as Pro-Am is concerned, it's white versus blue here. The cars bookending that first little group, fighting for Pro-Am honours. Pavlovic away and gone in second overall, but Lewandowski being caught all the time by Spinelli with 5 minutes to go. Downhill they come, and the race leader continuing to extend that margin. So, even though there's a penalty, I think they're still going to be good to take the race win, unless Pavlovic can really hack into that very quickly indeed. Right, where does Spinelli challenge against De Falco? Here it is, up the inside. He's got past 2 under braking, but he's off the road. Spinelli brakes so late, gains 2 places, runs off the road and loses them back again. Pavarud comes up to have a go on the outside. So 2 up and nearly 3 down there for Loris Spinelli. It's all a shuffling. And there Marcus Pavarud slots in behind him as they come off the last corner over the timing line now. 4 minutes and change on the clock. 2 more laps effectively for them here at the Nürburgring. The team manager of Pavarud's car is being summoned to the stewards as well, so something is afoot. Into the pit lane comes Jakob Noll for the drive-through penalty. Number 66 has incurred, and there looks Spinelli now wasting time battling with Pavarud. That's not going to help against Lewandowski. Out of turn 4 they come, out of the arena. So Galbiati is getting away all the time now from Pavlovic. That gap is 4 seconds between the top 2. And contact between Boccolacci and Spinelli that we saw at the chicane is being looked at by the officials as well. So there, out of turn 8, comes a move, and that puts De Falco up alongside Lewandowski for third, and through he goes, and that's really good for Spinelli. Look, who's right there on the back of the class leader. So the white and blue cars are about to switch positions overall, and also for the lead of the Pro-Am class. Loris Spinelli, who was nowhere with Gerard van der Horst in the first stint, goes through in the inside line into the lead of the class, and that shows you just how quick Spinelli is. Maybe the safety car helped in a big part because it kept them all bunched up, but Spinelli released now, carving through the field. So downhill they plunge once again here. You can see that Alberto De Falco is giving his car a big workout as well, third in Pro. But now we have a new Pro-Am leader. We are going to be able to squeeze 2 more laps out of the race as over the line goes Kiko Galbiati. Pavlovic, surprisingly, not really rising to the occasion here. Race leaders go through. 4.3 seconds the margin. De Falco up into third place. Now, what's his last lap time like? It was quicker than Pavlovic, but he's 7 seconds back, so he's not going to catch, but the gap second to third is coming down. So there, braking for turn 1 is Massimo Mantovani, who is still the leading AM, and now getting away from Oliver Freimuth to the tune of 13.5 seconds. So it's a big, big lead he's built up there. Downhill once again goes 53 then, so Mantovani turns his way through the arena. Now what else can shuffle out of this race? There is Boccolacci on the back of Pavarud. Boccolacci still with that little time penalty to serve, of course, before the end. That penalty to be added on post-race. Down the hill they come once more. One more lap to run at the end of this. Pavarud on his toes as he powers uphill now. Brake hard, turn into the Van Bogen coming up. This is the Bilstein curve. Go through Ravenel, through Bilstein, and then plunge downhill. The Pavarud inching up onto the back of Lewandowski. This is Pro-Am versus Pro. So Pavarud in this car started by Sebastian Balthazar, closing, closing, closing all the time. Onto the last lap has gone the race leader. So Kiko Galbiati it is now 4.4 seconds clear of Pavlovic. And here, De Falco versus Spinelli. Spinelli has done the fastest lap of the race and dives around the outside line there, going down towards the first corner. De Falco runs him way out wide, off the road. And Spinelli still stands his ground on the inside, and he goes back on the inside to take the place. Fantastic racing. Loris Spinelli is having none of that sort of stuff from De Falco, running him out wide. Puh, he fights back. Chops him off on the inside line, way up the curb. Loris Spinelli, talk about a man on a mission. De Falco almost into the back of him there, but drama just averted. Loris Spinelli, really impressive drive this. No further action against the incident he had with Boccolacci. And bearing in mind the car qualified way, way back. Row 8, it was on the 16th rank on the grid after Van der Horst's qualifying time. This has been quite a drive. I know that safety car period did help, but even so, Spinelli's just a delight to watch. Look at that, couldn't have been out wider. Forces his way back onto the race circuit, up the inside at turn 2, job done. But Kiko Galbiati, with the checkered flag awaiting him, is on target for the race win here. Race 2 later on today, but right now it is Kiko Galbiati, the man in charge of the opener, as he comes through the Out Van Bogen, makes the climb up towards the chicane. You can see all the witness marks on the ground there from previous drama through that chicane. It's the F1, it's the tighter version, not the one the GT cars use, but it's employed for Super Trofeo. Keeps the speed down a little bit as well with the heavy braking. And so number 33, Kiko Galbiati, and Dean Stoneman set for victory. It'll be a second win of the year for Dean, a first of the year for Kiko Galbiati. Kiko Galbiati and Dean Stoneman win at the Nürburgring. Second, Milos Pavlovic and Raoul Gutzman. And for third, absolutely nose to tail. Look at this as they come off the last corner. It is just Loris Spinelli who keeps Alberto Di Falco at bay. The gap between them as they came onto the last lap was 2 tenths. It was 3 tenths at the very end. So a very lively finish thanks to Loris Spinelli. Fifth, Andrei Lewandowski and Karol Bash. But for that safety car period, they might have been okay to take the class win, but it was not to be. Sixth for Pavarud and Balthazar. The winning Massimo Mantovani will be the next man home. There he is. And then the Lamborghini Cup winner, Hans Fabry, once again. So a very good drive indeed in that first stint by Dean Stoneman. First corner contact aside, but the officials decided it was fair game, and Kiko Galbiati mounting a really good second stint to keep that car in the lead. And not only that, but also to grow the margin over Milos Pavlovic in the end by 4 seconds, the winning margin. So the field will turn its way to the Parc Fermé presentation area, and Dean Stoneman, that's 2 on the bounce for him, so he's done 1 as a soloist and now 1 with a co-driver, Kiko Galbiati having started the year with Vito Postiglione. They win at the Nürburgring. Dean Stoneman and Kiko Galbiati victorious ahead of Raoul Gutzman and Milos Pavlovic, with third in the end going the way of Kevin Rossell and Alberto Di Falco. Fourth, Karol Bash and Andrei Lewandowski ahead of Gerald van der Horst and Loris Spinelli, which has been given a 5-second penalty. We have not been told for why, but a 5-second penalty given to Spinelli and van der Horst that means Lewandowski and Bash win in Pro-Am. 6th, Marcus Pavarud and Sebastian Balthazar. The other classes, 15th overall, the winning Am, Massimo Mantovani, and the winning Lamborghini Cup driver, Hans Fabry. So yes, a 5-second penalty to Loris Spinelli at the end of the race, but we've not been told why. It wasn't a pit stop that was under investigation, and unless it was track limits and the incident with Alberto Di Falco, but either way, a 5-second penalty has been offered. We'll try and get to the bottom of that in readiness for race 2 coming up later on. So the significance of that penalty is that it changes, of course, the Pro-Am result. In the championship now, Milos Pavlovic leads with Raoul Gutzman overall ahead of Dean Stoneman. Andrei Lewandowski and Karol Bash are next, ahead of Kevin Rossell, then Alberto Di Falco, Johnny Chicotto and Patrick Liddy. So the cars down the pit lane. There the boards say for where you should be parking, and the drivers in a moment will make their way to their parking positions, and then the scrutineers, if needs be, can do some work, check the cars over as they see fit. And at the end of a good stint, we thought, by Loris Spinelli, disappointment that he ends up with that penalty, but it does give a 100% record, therefore, to Bash and Lewandowski. Out gets Kiko Galbiati. Very happy man indeed. Loris Spinelli is about to be told of the penalty, and he will not be at all pleased. Massimo Mantovani making it 2 on the bounce in Am. Hans Fabry 2 on the bounce in the Lamborghini Cup. So the drivers out of the cars will make their way from the Parc Fermé presentation area very shortly, and then we might be able to have a word with the race winner, or half of that race winning crew, Kiko Galbiati. Dean Stoneman will be around there somewhere, but masks need to be on, as well as winners' caps, in this current age in which we have to operate. Very happy Kiko Galbiati. He came into Super Trofeo racing at the World Finals at Valencia a few years ago, out of nowhere, and was instantly massively impressive. and has just got better and better and better. So there is a win, and a very happy team ready to celebrate with him as well. So the drivers dress accordingly. There are the cars, 4 classes, top 3 per class in the technical area. And it'll be a very happy Kiko Galbiati, who makes his way to Gemma Scott in a moment to talk about the race. Hopefully, Dean Stoneman is not too far away, but another good drive for the British driver. A season of racing that has sort of appeared out of nowhere for Dean, really. It was a bit of a surprise to see him on the entry list for Super Trofeo, but he's rising to the occasion. 2 wins out of 3 races. Kiko Galbiati and Dean Stoneman, race winners at the Nürburgring. They're with Gemma.
Kiko, you brought that home absolutely beautifully after the safety car controlled the start, led it away and increased the gap once again.
Yeah, very good race. I think that the guys did a really good job. Dean, to the start, overtook the other cars. So my job was only to finish the race in the best position.
Absolutely, Dean. As Kiko's just said, you started off absolutely brilliantly. A flying start for you, taking the lead very early on. And nice to have a teammate this weekend and not be doing it on your own.
Yeah, it's great to have a teammate back in the car, and yeah, it was a bit challenging on the first lap. Got into the lead. I give Bash back the lead just to make sure there was no conflict of saying I gain an advantage by making a mistake under braking. But yeah, I give the position back, and it was a great race. And I just got into a nice rhythm. The team done a great job. But yeah, we come out at the end with a win. Fantastic result. Well done, boys. Thank you very much.
So there, Dean Stoneman explaining that he gave the lead to Karel Bash, albeit briefly. So avoiding any censure against that contact, but then fighting his way back through. So Dean Stoneman, who's done a lot of racing, of course, from a single-seater career that was derailed by his illness to GT cars, back into single-seaters, but got to being a Formula 1 test driver briefly, an F1 test for Williams, but now becoming a big force to be reckoned with in Super Trofeo. So the drivers will hopefully make their way shortly to their presentation area. And here at the Nürburgring, the circuit briefly has a little breather before the next activity on track, which will be for the GT World Challenge Europe. Cars for that out very shortly. But there, the drivers collect their trophies and make their way then to the backdrop with, as you can see, Alberto Di Folco and Kevin Rossell taking their 3rd placed trophies, and that is for 3rd overall and 3rd in pro. There for 2nd place, Raul Gutzmann and Milos Pavlovic. And then the race winners, Dean Stoneman and Kiko Galbiati, will step forward as well, ready to have their photographs taken. So you collect your own trophy, take that to the presentation backdrop. And there, Dean Stoneman and Kiko Galbiati celebrate race honours here at the Nürburgring. Then the attention turns to Pro-Am, which was won in the end by Karel Bash and Andrei Lewandowski, but there'll be a slightly grumpy Loris Spinelli, I would have thought. But it was that 5-second penalty added to his time that did fall them in the end. So there, Mikko Eskelinen overcoming a penalty as well, and his new teammate Elias Niskanen take their trophies. For 3rd place, the Mad Crop colours as ever adorning Mikko Eskelinen's overalls. And 3rd place it is for the 2 of them. 2nd place in the end, Gerard van der Horst and Loris Spinelli. Won it on the road, but Loris Spinelli being given that 5-second penalty. Gerard van der Horst for many, many years was the man to beat in the Lamborghini Cup, but at the World Final last year, having not done the whole season, elected to do something different, drove in Pro-Am with Loris Spinelli, and it was a big hit. Very, very good decision. So they've teamed up again for another season and to good effect with 2nd place in that race. And there, the class winners, Andrei Lewandowski and Karel Bash on the left as you look at it, celebrating a class win that perhaps they thought had got away from them, but a class win in Pro-Am it is nonetheless. And then for the AM category, up will step Akin Aka and Holger Hansen for third place. Akin Aka, the man behind Attempto Racing, and does occasional races when customers want him to join in. But Akin Aka has made a very good team in Attempto, made its name really in Carrera Cup Germany, but now in GT cars, winning in World Challenge Europe, won the Gulf 12 Hours last year, for example, and also, of course, running customers across different categories too. Akin Aka, Holger Hansen, third in the AM Cup. Oliver Freimuth, who seems to have been racing forever and a day, takes second. For many, many years he was a stalwart European Renault Championship racer, but Oliver Freimuth takes second place. And the winner of the AM Cup for Target Racing, Massimo Mantovani, who will step forward to receive the trophies, and a very happy man he is too. So complimenti Massimo. Massimo Mantovani takes gold, as it were, within the class. It's his winner's trophy, his Pirelli winner's trophy as well. And he's delighted, as you can see, with his class successes. And then you've got the Lamborghini Cup, of which there were only 2 finishers in the end. So it is going to be second-placed drivers Martin Lechman and Emir Kizarovic that step forward for second place. Martin Lechman having started, and the car being brought home by Emir Kizarovic. And the drivers for second place now stand aside as class winner Hans Fabry steps forward from Imperiale Racing. And a very good drive by Hans Fabry. He won at Misano, wins here as well at the Nürburgring. So a good effort made by Hans Fabry to come through as the category winner. So the drivers make their way out of the presentation area. Race 2 coming up later on in the day. It's the evening race for Super Trofeo. Join us for that later if you so can. For now, from David Anderson, it's goodbye.